what role do you think the media has played in that whole way that people react to each other?
I think to some extent, to expect that the world will always accept everyone is probably not realistic. I think in the end what we have to do is stop waiting to be accepted and accept ourselves, and then not give a flying fuck whether someone else accepts us or not. Because as long as you're sitting there waiting for someone to accept you, you're handing your power over to somebody else. And that ain't never going to work. And in a way, they're never going to accept you because they can see you're handing your power over to somebody else. So the great lesson in life is to hold on to your power. And then, funnily enough, it doesn't matter whether they accept you or not. The media, what does the media do? Look, the media is a mad mirror. But it is a mirror. It's no good blaming the media and saying it creates things. The media is a mirror. It reflects us back to ourselves as we actually are. Not as we'd like to think we were, not as we aspire to be, not as we morally would preach that we should be, but as we actually are. That's all our prejudices, all our insecurities, our vulnerabilities, our venal side, our nastiness. It's all there and it's all reflected back to us. Now, by reflecting ourselves back to ourselves as we actually are, it is a deeply conservative force because it reinforces what already exists. But we have to take responsibility for this. The media is us, we are the media. It wants to sell to the audience. What rates works, the business I'm in, you know whether you've been successful communicating because you get sales, you get a response. So it's all very well to be kind of high moral groundy about the media, but I don't think that's the point. I really don't think that's the point. It's not about fixing the media and then everything will be okay. It's not about making other people like us. It's actually much more about, it's you. Accept yourselves. And then you don't care. And then, funny enough, the media will change too. It's got to be a two-way street. And yes, there are blokes at the top, and you're absolutely right, and there are women who collude, and I'm one of those people that divides the world into two kinds of things continually. It's very boring, but I do it. So here's my two...
Makes it easier, doesn't it?
It does. Here's my two kinds of women, okay? There's Muse and Fuse. Muse are male-identified women. Bettina Arndt, where are you? She is the archetype of the male-identified woman. Read the column in today's Sydney Morning Herald? Yeah. Poor, pitiful men. Because women refuse to go into full-time work. They don't do more housework. That's a really weird equation, but she comes up with it every time. So that's a Mew, okay? They tend to say, I like my father, I don't like other women, I really like men, I'm a man's woman. Fuse are female-identified women. They stand up for their gender, they like their own sex, they probably had a good relationship with their mother, and they probably had a good relationship with their father too. When I started out in advertising a very, very long time ago, it was dominated, and the whole world was dominated by Muse. Most women were male-identified women because they were powerful. And so, to save your life, you identified with men. The great success of feminism is more and more women now and more young girls are female-identified women. They're Fuse. We discount how important this is, and it matters, and it's great, and you go to all sorts of venues in all sorts of areas, even in advertising, and you find women who are standing up and supporting other women. That didn't happen 30 years ago. Or maybe with very brave people like Eva down the front here, but very rarely. So don't despair, but for Christ's sake, don't give a flying fuck whether other people accept you or not. Who cares?
Yeah, well said. Thank you very much, Jane.